Okay, Trinity West and South, this is Mr. Koppes, my husband, and he is going to show us about the parts of a computer. So we're going to start. I'm going to zoom in on the power button and let him talk to you about it.
I teach computers to students at Penn Commercial. I teach people how to work on computers and work with technology, starting from everything from the power button, which will turn them on and off, to making them work and talk to each other on a network. Today we're going to go over several of the simple parts of the computer. For the power button to work, as you saw it didn't work when I pressed it a moment ago, we have to have it plugged in. This is the back of the tower. On the back we have connections for input and output peripherals. Commonly you'll find a keyboard and mouse plugged into USB ports somewhere here. You'll have a monitor connector somewhere on the back, or on this computer we actually plug it right in here to a DVI port. But even with all those connected, it still won't do anything without something plugged into the power connection right here at the bottom. If that's not plugged in, this computer won't do anything at all. So now we're going to open up and take a look inside, but first we need to follow some safety procedures. Everyone should wear an anti-static wrist bracelet when they're working inside a computer. It has a little metal strap on here that touches my skin, and then a little clip that I attach to the back of the computer. This keeps me from building up static electricity and makes it safe so I can work inside the computer without harming it. We're going to start with the flow of electricity. We start with the power supply. The power supply is what supplies energy through these cables to the motherboard, the video card, and other peripherals such as an SSD, a hard drive, the optical drive, or any other components that might be inside the computer. We have the CPU here, which is the brain of the operation. CPUs generate a lot of heat, and on a desktop computer require a heatsink to help keep them cool. The heatsink is commonly about the size of your fist. This requires a fan to blow on it to keep it cool. Video cards might be built in, might be added on. They help display output. They're required to display output. If you play any games of any sort, you'll typically have an add-in video card instead of a video card that is built into the motherboard. The motherboard is this big board in the back between these four corners that the CPU, the memory over here, the video card, and all the other expansion cables are plugged into. That's what makes things happen. It's kind of the super highway of the computer. The CPU is more like the brain. The motherboard would be more like your nervous system. It's what allows all the connections and the information to go back and forth from place to place. These slots here are your RAM. Your RAM is kind of your ability of how much you can do simultaneously, or how much you can think. If I'm working at a desk, the size of the desk is kind of like the amount of RAM I have. The more desk space I have, the more things I can do simultaneously. The more RAM I have, the more powerful and more complicated applications I can run at the same time on my computer. Right now the computer is off, but if I turn it on, it will still start up an operating system. The operating system is stored on a form of permanent storage. RAM is temporary, volatile storage. The data is gone when it's turned off. But permanent storage retains its data when the computer is off. Such as when you start it up and it starts Windows. This computer has an SSD or solid state drive. They're very small here. It's mounted in a bracket to make it easier to insert and remove. Solid state drives are cool because they have no moving parts. They're kind of like a fancy flash drive, a USB memory stick if you ever plugged one in, but far more powerful and much quicker too. This computer also has a traditional hard drive in it. Regular hard drives, as you see, are bigger. They have big platters in them. They look like plates. And there are read-write heads inside that move back and forth on the plates to read the data as the platter spins underneath of them. This case has some quick removal brackets to make it a snap to install and remove parts. There's also the back side of the case, which on this specific case gives me access to the rest of the cabling in the computer. I'm going to take the back side of the case off and turn it around. Now I expose more of the wiring to you, and you can see all the connections. So as you see, computers have quite a few parts, but all of these parts are fairly simple in nature, to the point that almost anyone can work on them. Just take your time, be careful, and kids, make sure you always ask a grown-up first. Have fun.